That's good. And I appreciate I didn't really say who I am and what, well, I said what I do, but I'm based in Manchester, so not too far from some of you, the Peaks and Pennines. So I'm speaking to you today from Sale in Greater Manchester, and it's really nice to be here and to hopefully show you some tips and techniques, and bearing in mind all those different things. So some of you wanting to teach the group, some of you wanting to use it to promote things yourselves. We'll be able to cover that today. So that's great. Let's move on to why animations are great, in my opinion. So I think, as a lot of you have said already, it's a way of capturing attention on social media, on websites, having something that moves, and also, of course, on Instagram. The algorithm really likes video, so whether that's photography, video style, or animated, if there is movement and it's an MP4 or a GIF that you're loading onto social media, it will surface your content more. So it is good to create something that moves. And it's a great way of simplifying complex information. So whether it's something that you're trying to convey and teach young people in your groups, or it's something that is a find or a discovery and you're trying to condense that, you can do so very easily by uploading photographs and finding graphics within Canva. Some of the ones, such as that one that you're seeing on this slide right now, are already loaded into Canva, and it's about me helping you to know where to search, what to type in, so that you can find something like that that just brings things to life. A picture speaks 1,000 words, a moving picture speaks even more. So it's useful for that. And I think for stories that are engaging, and if it's something that some of the young people have done that has really been quite moving, or you want to have their voices, but we don't want to have their photo or, visual up there, you can have a voiceover and you can have some moving cartoons and images, and it really captures people's hearts and minds. And unlike video photography, you're not dependent on actors and paying actors and the weather. So it's quite a cost-effective way of creating something that moves, that you can do yourself, and then you can upload on social media or share it in a WhatsApp group or anything like that. So, yeah, we've mentioned how it's really good for the algorithm on social media. It's something that's good that once you download it as an MP4 or as a GIF, and you can download it in both of those file formats within Canva, you can then upload it onto a website or embed it into a presentation, so that as you're moving through your slides, much like you'll see I do today, it will start moving and tell the story for you. So this next slide is an example of a very simple animation that I have created with YAC in mind. Everything that you see as a moving part in here has been sourced within Canva and dropped in. And I've added the transitions, and I've sourced music within Canva, and I've put that to the piece as well to create something that hopefully captures attention. So I won't speak through this. Here we go. So I hope that the audio worked for you there. Give me a thumbs up if you could hear the music and the no, you
No, we
couldn't
didn't
hear
get
that.
the. I was just about to message you, Caroline.
Work. I think I have found that on a previous online session I've done. So I can send that link around afterwards, but essentially you'll have to imagine what was going on there. There's a little bit of music at the bottom, and then we even had extra sound effects of children saying wow, and we had sound effects of the spade digging up the sand. Again, all of this was audio that's already in the library of Canva, that's copyright free, that once you're inside Canva, you can use any of those materials that are there. If you've got a free account, you'll be limited to the stuff that is free and accessible. There's always a little crown sign if you need to have the paid for premium Canva to use some of the bells and whistles, but there's plenty to work with that's free, that's already there. And just a raise of hands for anyone that has got the pro version where you've got all of the added bells and whistles. Catherine, and Sophie and Martha. And so I think everyone else on free. But yeah, I for a long time used the free version myself and I know how much is there. But if you have got that pro version, I would say for the purposes of this session, it just means there might be a few extra pictures or audio that you could choose from for this. But everything I'll be teaching you can do in the free version. So um, right, we'll move on to storyboarding. So, oh, I'm 5 minutes behind schedule. Let's see if we make this time back up. But essentially, this is something that you can just scribble down on a bit of paper. No need to do it right now. This is just me talking you through what I've done ahead of me showing you how it starts to translate into a Canva animation. So I tend to get a piece of paper and I'll say, right, the first frame, I'm going to have the title of what this piece is about. The next frame for what I'm going to create is hello, I'm Caroline. And then the next frame will be explaining with my audio. I also did the homework of creating a voice memo and loading, I'll be loading it into Canva and I'll be saying, I love art and illustration because, and I'm going to find some words. I'll type some words out and put those in the animation. I might find some graphics that I think accompany what I'm saying quite nicely. Then I'll move on to the next frame, which will be my favorite illustrator is Quentin Blake. And then I'll be dropping in some of his artwork and showing some of that within the piece. Which even as I'm saying that, I'm just thinking we do have to be careful of copyright. So while I'm doing that for the purposes of explaining this, I think anything that you do create, it's just being mindful that you do really have the rights to use that artwork or permission to use that photograph. Of course, you have to think about that if it's going in the public domain. But for illustrative purposes today, I will be using some Quentin Blake artwork that I have taken off the websites and loaded in. And then I'm going to be sharing 3 words that describe how art and design makes me feel. And then the final slide, the final frame, will be a call to action. And if you're creating an animation for the purposes of, I'm trying to capture people's attention on social media, I'm trying to give them insight into what we do in our YAC group, and then here's the details. Get in touch with me on this email address and find out about getting involved or getting your young people, your children involved. It's good to end with a call to action like that, or a website or a logo. So that's the storyboard. And for anything that you ever create, don't be afraid of just getting a pen and paper and having it as scruffily scribbled out as mine is. So that does the trick. Okay, so I've then also thought about, well, how long do I want each frame to last? So I'm thinking probably just 1 second for the title. Maybe the hello is about 3 seconds, depending on how long my voice piece is. And through this training, I'll be showing you how to stretch out the frames, which is literally what we'll be doing in Canva. You grab it at the corners and you stretch it to align with what's happening in the audio. So you're listening out and you're thinking, oh, I need to just drag it a bit more. And now I've finished talking about that. I'm now starting to talk about why I love art. So I'm going to stretch out the next frame to last for that period. So that's the syncing process that we'll be going through. So overall, when I tot up all of those frames, if I could do my maths quickly, I think I have it at about 30 seconds, something like that. Let's move on before anyone adds it up and finds out that I'm wrong. So in terms of the next part of this training, I thought it would be most useful to click into a new tab. So do let me know that the screen changes and that you can see where I'm clicking about. And I will start to show you as I drag and drop things around to mimic that storyboard that you've now seen and got in mind. That's what I'm going to be creating. So let me click this and hopefully, can everyone see a new screen with why do I love X and some red, yellow and pink squares at the bottom? Is that working?
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Great. Okay. Well, let me push this here. So within this, if I make the screen a bit bigger, so for some of you, you might be quite familiar with Canva. Some of you, it might be very new. Um, how many of you on the call could I have a show of hands? Would you say you are beginner level with Canva? Anyone a beginner? Yep, Stephen, Barbara, Debbie. Yep, yep. I think there's a few more. Okay, I'll make sure I go through it in quite a bit of detail. That's perfect. So in the instructions sent before this session, I mentioned that when you go into Canva, you search for this particular file is a video file and it is 1920 pixels by 1080 pixels. So that is just the dimension in terms of all of the dots that make up this screen. And what's great about Canva is anything that you go to create in Canva, it will tell you if you say, I want to create an A4 poster, not an animation at all, it already has preset, well, what is A4, what dimensions, what pixels. So you don't need to think about it. So by just typing, I'm making an animation video, it's giving you a 1920 by 1080 pixel. That is industry standard for the ratio of width to height that you're going to want. And you can save it quite big for large high resolution screens, or you can save it quite small, but that's a standard size that you would use. You might find that if you know you're deliberately going to make an animation that will be used on a phone for an Instagram reel and it needs to be portrait, you can say to Canva, Instagram reel animation, and it will give you a different size and dimension. But by and large, you're going to want this 1920 by 1080. So if you can have that advanced knowledge of where something's going, give it to Canva straight away and it will give you the right dimensions. If you create it in this and then you need to make it portrait, you can do that as well. You can do that with the pro version, the paid for version of Canva, where you can just click resize. But even without that, you could export the file, create a new file separately in Canva, drop in your animation and add some height and space at the top and bottom. So it will still work without the pro version. Right, so what can we see here? On the bottom here, we've got the different frames. The yellow, the red frame, pink frame. I've pre-populated these frames. If I hadn't already put all of these in, what you would be seeing, you'll see I'm clicking at the bottom where it says show page thumbnails, and we have pages. If I click that, it's now laid it out like an animation saying this frame, then this frame, then this frame. If I click it again, it just shows me one canvas size at a time, and I can add new pages. And if I don't want them to be yellow, I can click up here where I see the background color and I can make it white, or I can make it purple, or whatever color I want. If ever you're trying to match a color to the YAC branding, you could upload the YAC logo. I think I have it in here already from having made that previous animation. So on the left where you see elements, elements are Canva's own shapes and little animations that you have the right to use. They are copyright free. They are there for you to use. You will not be in any trouble for dragging and dropping those into what you produce. Um, Further down from elements, if you see uploads, the cloud icon, there are all sorts of things that I've dropped in, and I've probably broken copyright, as I've mentioned. I have got some screenshots of some Quentin Blake. So I might think, well, I want the color. Now that I've clicked it, it just drops it in the middle. I want the color of this background slide to match the red scarf. I want that exact shade. Because I've dropped that image in there, or it could have been a YAC logo or whatever, I now click the background. And whenever you see that purple line come around anything, whether it's the image or the full canvas, you know what you've selected. So I've selected the full canvas and I'm now clicking background color, and it's picked out the colours I've already used in my document. But if I scroll down, it's really clever in that it spots, oh, you've used a photograph. Do you want any of the colours from that photograph? Yes, I do. I want the red. So I now know that I've got the perfect shade of red to match. So whenever you're having to do things that need to be on brand for YAC, and again, if I search here, I think I have got the YAC logo. Oh no, it's not found it for me. I must have it here in the archives from having made it before, but um yeah, I do have my own logo for sure. Boy oh boy. If I search for that, I can drop that in, and again it's picked out the colours for me, so I'm using the exact correct shades that match my branding. So that's just a little tip on how that works. So already we've covered the basic layout of where you see the frames at the bottom, that by clicking pages, you can change the way it appears on the screen so that you can create things one page at a time. And then if you wish, you can click pages and see how it will stitch together. We've also just looked at the left-hand pane here where you can search elements for Canva's own graphics, illustrations that you can use. And we have looked at uploads, the cloud icon on the left, where you can search things you've already uploaded, or you can upload something afresh. So the reason that I've got all of these different colours on the frames at the bottom is so that I can talk you through some key things that I want to ensure we cover in this session before I make my storyboarded animation. So there's the storyboard, the basic Canva design buttons. So yeah, what we've just looked at there, the elements and the uploads, those are key ones on the left, and you'll always find this pane on the left. The text, if you click on there, a window sort of pops out for everything that you hover over, whatever it is. So if you hover over there and then say, yes, I want to add in a title, you drop in a title and it appears, and you've got the purple line, and you know that that purple line tells you you've selected it. And again, very like Word or Google Docs, you can select what font you want to use. So if there's an on-brand font that you need to use, if it's Arial, there we go. It's now changed it to Arial. If we want to make this bigger as a heading, wherever you see the little dot or wherever you can grab onto that purple box and stretch it, unlike some Microsoft files, you don't need to press Control Alt Delete to keep it in scale or anything. You can just grab things and stretch it. It will always keep the ratio and won't let it squish, whether it's an image or it's text. And you can see that the size of the text is changing up here. So we're currently at font size 251 for that. I could make it bold if I want to. I could change the color by clicking on the A and saying I want that in my on-brand red. I want to overwrite it and call this hello. I maybe don't want it in capitals. What advanced formatting do we have? So I'll just say hello. So yeah, you've got all of that down here. I won't get into talking about the brand and things like that, but if as you become even more au fait with Canva, you can set up and preset. These are always the colors I use. I'm going to load a brand kit. Again, you can see the little crown, so that means that is a paid for privilege, I suppose. But there's always a workaround in Canva. So even if you don't have your brand kit, drop in your logo, and it picks out the colors as I've shown you. So I will just stop for a moment to see, is there anything that you're seeing on this screen that you think, what is that? And how would I use that? I feel like I've shown you the main bits, but if anything is capturing your attention. Yep, Debbie?
Hi, can you do I've got a voice recording of somebody that I want to do something. Can you do it so that it goes across the whole presentation, or do you have to restart it every single slide?
That's a really good question, and you can do it that it will go across the entire presentation. You don't need to start it for every slide. So yeah, that's good news. You equally, we'll, I think I've got uploading audio. You have brought me neatly on to the next thing, so I can move into that now and show you. I have some audio myself, so I am going to show you that when you're uploading something, then I will find the audio now, upload files, and if I look for voice note, which is an MP3, I think I called it I love art. Oh, what did I call it? Essentially, you find it by searching your computer. I have preloaded it in case that happened. So here we go. It was art I love. That's what I should have been searching for. Let me go through the process again. Art I love. So, and that will be in my recents or on my desktop. I think art I love. Or downloads actually, because I sent this over via AirDrop from my telephone yesterday. Apologies, I can't actually remember where I saved that on my computer, but that's more by the by. Essentially, if you email it to yourself, if you AirDrop it to your machine that you're creating on, or if you access Canva on your telephone itself, you can have the Canva app. You can just click on uploads, you upload that file. Luckily, I uploaded it yesterday. So let's start with name and what I love. And it's automatically saved as an M4A from when I recorded it as a voice note in my iPhone. So I'm going to just click on it, and you can see that has just, by clicking on it, it's dropped it into a space that we didn't even know was there at the bottom of all of these frames. So as you were saying, can it go across everything? Yes, I could at the moment. I just selecting it, and I can drag and drop. I can say when the animation starts, it's going to be silent for hello, and then the audio is going to start from the red slide. If I You see where I'm clicking to zoom in here at the bottom? So that's showing us the actual frame larger. If I click next to it, it will show me the thumbnails and the audio larger. It just gives me a better view. So that works. I'm going to click back here on the first frame, and I'm going to hit play. See what, you might not hear the audio. I appreciate that from our earlier test, but it's kicking in now. Hi, I'm Caroline Boyd, and I absolutely love illustration, design, and animation. Did that work?
Hear it, Caroline.
You can hear it. It's brilliant.
Yay!
Yay! I'm glad. So you can see that that went across a few different frames. For me, I don't want to have lots of different frames with this. I want to sync it up that when I'm talking about why I love animation, that's what we're seeing on the frame. So I'm going to, you can also see where you see this audio wave, that actually I'm obviously taking a deep intake of breath while it's just a simple line here. So I want it to start right on the beat of me beginning to talk. So I'm going to actually really precisely, using my mouse, try and click, and you can then hold and your click and drag in so that I've cut off that breath at the beginning. And now if I just select anywhere on the audio and pull it along with the Mickey Mouse kind of hand glove that you see, it should now start more on the beat. Although it looks like I could tighten it up even more. So wherever we've got this line, that's where it's going to start playing from. So let's start without anything and press play. And I'm pressing the space bar to press play. Space bar. Hi, I'm Caroline Boyd, and I absolutely love illustration, design, and animation. And then I've pressed the space bar to pause it so I can see where that black line is currently over this pink graphic. I want to grab, when I see the arrow with the two arrowheads, I want to grab that red one and just stretch it to where that line is, because that's when that piece of audio ends. So now if using the mouse, I'm just hovering and clicking down here, and you can either press play using your mouse or press your space bar. I'll press the space bar again.
Hi, I'm Caroline Boyd, and I absolutely love illustration, design, and animation.
That's where I want it. So if I did decide, so although you might want the one piece of audio throughout, if I wanted to chop things around and maybe I want to chop up my audio, if I select this audio wave itself, although it's trying to select what's above it as well. Let me see, can I just... I don't think it matters actually that it's selecting what's above it, because what I'm going to click now that I'm here on the audio, you see that this bar has just appeared up top. Whatever you click on in Canva, suddenly something emerges, which is like, we think you might want to be clicking this. So this bar has emerged. I can have a look here. I could delete this track entirely. Don't want to do that. I could split the audio. Yes, please. I want to split it so that then when I click this, it will just do a nice scissor cut. Boom, we've got two separate audio pieces. So if I want to, I can drag that down to not start until a couple of frames time, if I wish. That's essentially like cutting a ribbon and dragging and dropping. The other options you've got up here, as well as delete, split audio, adjust audio. If you click on adjust audio, it's actually, I think that's showing me adjust. Even clicking down here on the dots, once you click on adjust, there are some dots that emerge on the right. And then when you click on those, you'll see that you could adjust it so that I'm actually not sure why it's giving the scissor there. Apologies, I actually can't remember what that is. But on adjust, I'm going to instead show you how to fade that bit of audio. So if you click fade, I can decide, well, as it gets to near the end of this audio segment, I want it to fade out over 1.5 seconds. So I'm just dragging and dropping. And if you look at the bottom, you can see that dark purple is starting to have a ramp or a bit of a hill, and the lilac purple, that's showing you how abruptly it's going to fade. Is it going to almost drop off a cliff edge, or is it gradually going to fade out the music or something? So I'm going to gradually fade it. I wouldn't recommend doing this when it's audio, but for the sake of having a bit of fun on a Sunday morning, let's listen to how this is. So let's press play.
I love illustration, design, and animation.
There we go. So it's faded out. And similarly, if I want to fade back in on this other slide, I click adjust, or as you can see, it is actually up here anyway. I can fade it in over the course of 1 second. And that's going to be a bit more abrupt, we can see from the line.
I think the reason that I love...
It didn't really capture the voice waves there, so I would need to fade that in for longer to capture it anyway. So let's try again.
I think the reason that I love it...
Okay, so that is how you upload some audio, and that, as I say, is from a voice memo, a voice note. But if anybody sends you an MP4, if you ask any of your young members to record something into their phone and send it to you on WhatsApp or email, however you get hold of it, if you can send it to your computer where you're using Canva and drop it in the upload section, it will save it into the audio area of uploads for you. And then...
Caroline? Oh,
yeah.
Sorry, just a question from Martha, I think.
Yeah.
And I think she's found something, but do you have any recommendations for a voice notes app to use in Android or for PC?
Oh, that is a very good point. I don't have any particular recommendations. I do feel like they are much of a muchness. So just finding one that's cost effective, it's really to do with the microphone on your phone anyway. So whatever you find that is works for Android as a way of just recording audio on that phone, whether it records it as an M4A, as Apple do, or an MP3, that's fine. It doesn't matter what format. So apologies, I haven't got a particular recommendation, but I would say it won't really matter. Just find something that when you do some YouTube reviews, it looks simple to use for you. That's fine. But I will show you as well while we're in this upload section. So this is everything that you've loaded, your own audio, your own images. Moving back to the elements, maybe we want to have some music. So let's say we want some chirpy music. I will just type in chirpy audio and search in the elements section. And up top, it gives you, are we searching everything that's in elements? Are we searching for audio? Are we searching for graphics and photos or videos? I'm interested to see what chirpy audio looks like because a graphic, it's giving me a chirpy bird. But if we click on audio, because that is what we want, it's throwing up a few different options that have the word chirpy in them. So we can, without dragging and dropping, you will see a lot of the music is pro, but there's a cartoon loud burp and belch. I don't know if that's to do with let's have a listen. Okay, that was rather disgusting. I apologize. But we can search different things here for, we might search for just happy audio, actually. Let's type in happy audio and see what's free. A happy children's tune. So if I press play, maybe that could work. Maybe I want bright intro music. Let's see, what else have we got that's, and you can also see where it's saying 0.3, 0.11, it's giving you an idea how long is that going to be. I can see that that's not going to be long enough for me anyway. So there's something here that's 3 minutes, 10 seconds. Let's have a listen. Wide space. That might be nice. So I'm going to click it and it drops it in and it creates a second track. So this is multi-tracking of audio. So it's dropped that underneath my voice note and underneath the graphics. And I can see I've got 39 seconds of audio here. So I'm going to drag that along so that it starts when the voice part starts. But I might find that I don't want this to drown out the speaking. So I'm going to click on this blue track, this music, and where we see up here the volume button, we can drag that down to something like maybe 10. Let's see how this sounds at 10 with the audio just being the standard volume that it is. So let's hit play.
Hi.
Oh.
I'm Caroline Boyd and I absolutely love illustration, design and animation.
It's almost too quiet. So again, it's very trial and error to get it how you like. So let's see how this sounds.
Hi, I'm Caroline Boyd and I absolutely love illustration, design.
So I might decide I'm happy with that. I might decide I'm talking about animation and illustration. I'm going to see if there's a sound effect. So I'll go back to the elements again, click on audio and type in pencil on paper and see if it gives me, yeah, it's giving me a 7-second. I think, yeah, that's quite nice. I'll click that. I've now got a third audio track and I'm just going to drag that underneath here. So I'll let this start a little bit later on once I've said I like drawing. So let's have it there and let's fade it down a little bit so it doesn't drown out the voice. So 55, let's see.
Hi, I'm Caroline Boyd and I absolutely love illustration, design.
So yeah, you get the idea. Those are the key things that I wanted to show you with audio. Before I move on to some of the other sections I want to teach you, anything more on audio? Is that all okay with everyone? Yeah? Good stuff. Right. So,
Yes, just
oh,
a
yes.
quick thing on audio. Um, we have musicians in the family as well,
Yeah,
and my grandson's a composer and composed music for us.
great.
Obviously, you know, I can use that. But also, I take recordings of live sessions with one of my sons who plays mandolin in a band. So, I mean, I don't know about copyright. Obviously, I'd ask permission.
Yes.
But the other thing is, I believe you can use snatches of music.
Yeah.
Do you know how much? You know, phrases and things.
Well, if you're looking just for a snatch of it, I would say you might find, oh, I've recorded 10 minutes of my grandson playing, and then you upload that. And once you upload it, you can make it more of a short snatch by just deciding
Right.
to pinch it at the corner. So if you see where we click at the very end, you highlight the track. If this pencil was what you'd
Yeah.
recorded, you would highlight that and just pull it in, and you might want to pull it in. So, ooh, and sometimes it moves it along in its place. You put it exactly where you want it to appear in the piece, but it's catching it on the edge, which is a little bit finicky with the mouse. Once you hover and get that arrow and you see those two bookends, click
Yeah.
on them and pull it in and say, I just want 3 seconds. That's the
Yeah.
only snatch I want. And to
Yeah.
make it
Just a
sound,
snatch.
that's just a snatch. And then you can just fade it in and fade it out again. So you might click the fade button and say, I'm just going to fade it in for half a second. And I'm also going to fade it out for half a second so that, yeah, you're just having a quick snatch. Let's have a listen.
Illustration, design, and add.
But yeah,
Yeah.
that's the way you would do it. So whatever you capture is fine. You can snatch it.
Yeah.
And Joe, you have a question as well?
Not so much a question. While we're on audio, I just wanted to let everybody know that we did some similar training around creating your own podcast. And there was a lot of kind of support around how to capture audio in interesting and different ways, and then how to kind of add it. So I just think, if you're looking to do that yourself, you could probably use that, and that's on the YAC website as well.
Brilliant. Excellent. That's good.
Thank you, Joe.
No problems. Yeah, that's all good. So I know some of you have mentioned that you've got photographs and things that you would want to upload. This should be quite a quick one really to show you. So you click the upload section on the left, you click on upload files, you find a photograph. So I might have, what have I got? That's a picture. I've got a photo of a bandstand and I want to upload that picture. You'll see the little blue waves telling me this is uploading, we're nearly uploaded. And once it gets to the top, I can click. And wherever I am in my frames, wherever that line is, which we can see it's the pink frame at the moment, it's dropped in that image. So that's how you upload it, and then it's forever in your bank in Canva, unless you click on the three dots and move it to trash or delete it. But yeah, anything you upload, you should be able to search for again. So that's how you add something. If I want to move it to a different area, I'm just going to select that image and I'm going to pull it down onto the red space at the bottom, which is now highlighted purple, and hover my mouse back up here. So I've just kept my mouse clicked down this whole time and I've dropped it in here instead. I'm going to click this arrow to collapse all of these other images out of the way. I'm going to give myself a bit of space to see, clicking down here. There's my canvas. I want this to fill the entire frame. I don't want this red border actually. So I'm going to pick it up by clicking on the middle of this image. And I'm going to now click the corner where we've got the double-headed arrow and drag. Some of the image has gone off the dimensions of this canvas, but I'm going to lift my hand off the mouse and pull it up here and just decide where I feel looks right. Yeah, I am happy with that. So that will now feature full bleed on that particular frame. So that's a little bit about how to upload images. I will just start to rattle through some of these and then capture questions at the end of this section, as I realise we're getting near to the 11 o'clock questions segment and break time. So that's uploading images, finding static illustrations or moving animations in Canva. To do that, you would click the Elements section that we've already used to find some existing audio that Canva provided. So maybe I want to find something to do with archaeology, and I'm not sure what. So I'm going to just type in the word archaeology and see what comes up. I'm still on the audio tab, so that's not ideal. I need to just click on graphics, and I can see here there's some cartoons of someone digging, there's some items, there's some tools. If I keep scrolling down and I want to look for something that's free, what I can do, rather than seeing everything I can't use, I could click this filter icon on the top right, and that would actually allow me to look for something static or animated. I think I'm going to look for something animated, and I'm also going to click that I want something that's free. I don't want to pay for Canva Pro. It doesn't need to be a cutout, and I don't mind what orientation or shape it is. So if I just click anywhere off the page there, it's only giving me 2 options. So it is somewhat limiting for this, but I can see, looks like Stonehenge. Let's just click that and drop that in. So, and I'm going to drag my text down here. I can see that this is just moving on repeat. So whatever I have in the audio underneath, I've just got this sort of wavy repeating graphic, but it adds a bit of interest. I've not had to animate that bit myself by hand. So it gives quite a polished moving image look with quite little effort. But I could decide, given I've only got 2 options here, you'll see at the bottom on the left, it comes up with some magic recommendations sometimes. Because I've chosen the Stonehenge image, it's thinking, well, maybe you might like this guard. Maybe I want him. Maybe that is useful. And as you can see, because it's on a transparent background, I can just drop him in front of Stonehenge. And it looks like there's all of a sudden quite a lot happening in this frame, and it's just a couple of clicks. So it's quite handy that sometimes Canva thinks, oh, I think I know where you're going. I'll make some recommendations for you. Let's click to see all. So what else is it showing? So I might not have typed in Aztec, and I just typed in archaeology, but suddenly I found myself in this rabbit hole of, oh, well, actually, I could use this. So that looks interesting. Or maybe I want to have a map of the world. Maybe that's useful for whatever point I might be making. So you type in the keywords that are relevant to what that frame is, what point you might be making. But sometimes you'll just find things that inspire you. And although you've got your storyboard that you're working to, have a bit of fun with it, and you can play around, and you never know where it might take you. It depends on what assets you find within Canva sometimes. And then you can tweak where you plan to take your illustration animation. So I'll take that off for now. I quite like having this guy in front of this. That's how you find things. You can search for other words. If I wasn't happy with either of these 2, I can try and get more specific. I can then say, well, maybe some artist has loaded something in here that they're happy for us to use that is with the tag word artifact. Let's look for an artifact. Okay, it's giving me some more, and I've still got my filter on with the 2 things where I'm looking for moving artifacts. It's giving me quite abstract movement here, so this is not really what I was looking for. I might type in dig. Oh, and it's picked up dog. That's not what we want. So digging, sometimes it is just trial and error, but that might be because of the filter. So I am going to take on this filter. Let's clear all of those, and let's just see digging. So sometimes when you scroll with digging, you will find that someone hasn't tagged something that is a moving image anyway. So it's worth just perusing in case. And sometimes you can just type in digging animation, and just adding the word animation can help bring things up. It does seem that there is a shortage of things in that area, but we will leave that for now. You get the idea of how you can search for things and where to go for that. Let me just check what else I wanted to explain before we go to questions. Adding animated transitions and shortening frame lengths. We've done that actually. So that's the same for shortening the audio. You just hover over the frame, and once you see those two bookends appear and the double-headed arrow, you click down and you pull it in, and you can go as short as you like. You can also click on a few frames at once by pressing the control button and I've selected about 5 frames there. You can see the purple over all of those. And if I now lift my hands off everything, they're selected. Up here, where it says 5 seconds, I can say apply to all of these pages or frames that they're all going to be 5 seconds. Actually, that's too long. I want them all to be 1.5 seconds. Suddenly they're all condensed. So these are all some of the little tips and tricks that as you get more familiar, you can speed up the making of things by knowing that you can do that and you can make everything consistent. But quite often, if you're using audio, each frame might be a different length because you want this image to accompany this message, this image for a shorter message, and you'll sync it with your audio. But sometimes you might be creating things without any voice or audio, and it is just to have moving images, and you might pick a nice piece of music underneath it so you can have the frames whatever way you want for that. Other things I wanted to teach, fading the audio, I've covered that already. So that's using the selecting the audio, and then you'll see the fade. So the final one before questions is how to add transitions. So when it comes to transitions, let's make some of these longer so we can see what we're doing. The transition is in between the frame. As you can see, it will just play without a transition at all. It will just go flash, flash, that to that, to that, to that. But if we want to add a little bit of extra special effects, we can zoom in on these thumbnails. And if you hover here, as I've just hovered the mouse between these two, Canva is trying to guess what do I want to do here. So I might want to use the plus sign to add another page and think, oh yeah, actually, I want to have a page here where it's green and it just provides a little bit of a break or a breather between slides. And if I, instead of clicking to add a new page, if I click this triangle with the arrows, that's a transition. So let's click that and you'll see that what appears is a window with various options. So I can have no transition where it just flashes from that frame to that frame. I could click to dissolve and it will just sort of dissolve into the next frame. I could click slide and it will swipe and sort of slide, and I could have it happen in just a few seconds. I can have it slide left or slide right, slide up or slide down. I could try a different technique. I could say I want a circle wipe where it all goes into a bubble and then it all explodes out. I could try a chop where it just sort of chops in. So let me just have a bit of fun and try a range of different transitions. I'll have a dissolve here, which looks like a funnel. I've got a chop here where it chops in. I'm going to click to have a different transition here that is a stack. And I am going to have a different transition earlier on here. And what do I want here? Let's see. Let's have a match and move. So if we now watch back and click play, let's start from here. That's a match and move transition. That all happened quite quickly though, so I am going to select all and make the segments 5 seconds. I'm also going to try and adjust the screen so that you can see a little better. I will click up on the top bar where it says we've now got a 39-second animation. And Let me just have a look here. This is the bit we want to have a look at. Right, so I want to play it from here, and I'm actually going to delete my audio. I just want to show you the visuals. So I'm going to click on the top bar where it's got play, because hopefully that will show you full screen and you'll really get to see these transition effects better. But as you can see, while we're in the Canva workspace, you get these little thumbnails that just give you a clue as to what transition you chose between frames. But by clicking on the preview play up in the purple bar at the top, let's just see it in full screen. So do let me know if this doesn't work. So from the very beginning, these are no transitions, and our first transition is coming up after this slide. That was a match and move. The next is a swipe down. The next transition, I think, might be a dissolve in. And then I think we've got a chop coming up. Yeah, the chop. So you can have a bit of fun. I think people find that they have different preferences. Quite often I will just use a dissolve, or I will use no transition at all. I quite like it simple. You don't need to use them, but they're there if you want to use them. And the final thing that I will show you is that even within the graphics and the text that you put on each frame, you can add transitions there. So for the hello slide, I might want to have an animated effect. So by selecting hello, I'm now going to select animate on the top, and let's see what options I'm given here. So it's saying, do I want to animate the text or do I want to animate the page? I do want to just animate the text that says hello. I'm going to scroll down to look at some suggested animation effects. And as I hover, it's giving me a clue as to how that will look, a bit of a preview. So I can have hello appear as though it's been typed. I can have it ascend. I can have it shift. Some of them, it's very subtle differences. That one, it's merging in. This one, a block appears. This one really pops. It's quite fun. So there are all kind of things to play with. I quite like this one, and this might be quite nice for archaeology, and when it comes to a dig and things are emerging, and something that's clarifying out of a blur, and then suddenly it emerges. So that's quite a nice effect. So I might click on clarify. That's the one I want. Do I want that effect on enter and exit, or just on enter? I think I'll just have it emerge and then stay until the end of that frame. And then I want it to be quite slow. I want it to emerge quite slowly. Or I can say, no, let's speed it up. I want it to emerge pretty fast. How much movement do I want? Do I want to maximize the movement? Or if I click lower down, there's less. You will notice again, for those of you with Pro, you've got access to this level of detail as to the speed and the level of movement. If you are on the free version, you'll still have access to animated effects. You won't have that level of nuance as to how fast it appears, etc. So that's that. I might also look at this slide if I click to it with the illustrations. Perhaps I want the Roman to appear. I might want to change his colours as well. You see, when I've selected him, it's showing me there's green and black here. I might want to use red because that's part of my brand colour, and maybe I want pink. Maybe I want to swap it the other way around and have him mainly pink, but with red as the lines. So you've got a lot of flexibility. I'm going to click on animate, and I'm going to have him emerge from the blur, or do I want him to, maybe I want him to pop from the ground. Here he is. He's just popping in. So that's called baseline, that particular effect. And if I wanted, I could change it so that he drops in from the sky. And then I can reverse it on exit if I wish. So he then disappears again. So let's have a look at that slide now. He drops in, and then I think he's going to fly off. There he goes. So it's all of these little details that add the interest, really. You can make it as simple or as complex as you want. And in terms of what I suppose I've mainly focused on the actual buttons and the functionality of things. But again, when I've been playing around while you were working on that, I've created my own little piece about why I love Quentin Blake. And there are just little things to look for within the design that can help you to get a look and feel that you really like. So, for example, this logo here, if I grab it, you can see that when you hover, you get this pink margin. So it always gives you what Canva recommends is a nice amount of space so that things aren't too cramped and are nicely spaced. And then there's the sort of design rule as well, that there's a rule of thirds. So you don't have to always center everything, but if you use that third for a picture, maybe there's nothing happening in the middle third, and in the left third up top, you've got things spaced out for interest. That's something you can do. Here I have put it centrally. And at first, when I was designing this, I'd put all of these graphics on the one slide. And then again, I thought, no, basic design principle, don't be afraid of the space. So I've centered these to let the movement do the talking, and I've changed the colors. So the more cohesive the look and feel by picking a few colors and sticking with them throughout. So I've just got my pinks, my whites, my reds, my yellows here, and I've tried to choose animated bits that relate to that. This one, I have broken the rule a little bit. I wasn't able to change the color of that, so that's how it is. But yeah, I think just keep it quite simple. And then again, with some of the effects, although I've shown you all of the different types of dissolves and transitions, I would recommend that when you get to know it more, pick one or two that you like. Don't have something different going on all the time. Simplicity is one of the key things of good design. So just keep that in mind and have fun. And the final thing I will show you is, what do you do now that you've got your finished piece? You click on the top right to share. And when you click on the share button, you'll see that you can download. So if you click to download, and then within the MP4 video, it's suggesting, it's already anticipating you want this as a video, don't you? It's like, oh, how did you know? Or you might want it as a GIF if there is no sound. If you choose to have it as a GIF, then that will loop automatically. It doesn't take up as much memory space. Some websites prefer a GIF, some websites prefer an MP4. So wherever you're planning to put this, just see what that particular platform likes. Some social media likes both MP4 and GIFs, really. But know that once you've created it, you can export it in different formats, whatever your need might be. As a GIF, it does break it down into the different frames. Don't be alarmed by that. Once it's downloaded and saved to your computer, it will be a looping, moving image. If you click on MP4, again, for streaming, 180 pixels is high definition. If we come back, it's saying, oh, for social media, 720 is ample, because again, the file might be too big for some social media platforms. If you wanted it Ultra HD in 4K, because it's going on a backdrop of, I've actually done some animations that have been used quite interestingly at a big gala event, and I created some of those within Canva quite simply, and it was on a huge 4K screen. You can do things as powerfully as that within Canva. So do check what sort of size you need. And it's recommending 480 as a draft you'd send someone, but that's not going to be high enough quality. So 720 as a minimum. And then you click download and save, and that's pretty much it. So I'll leave it at that, so I'm not overwhelming with any more information. And I have got a sheet that I'll send to Joe after this as well that just gives you some of the basic steps. But I think watching the recording again and skipping through to the bits you need is hopefully helpful. But any final thoughts or questions?